Okay, the question of the day is if you could travel anywhere, where would you travel?
If I could travel anywhere, I might travel to like New Zealand or something.
New Zealand? What is drawing you to New Zealand?
There's cool mountains and water, and I think there's fish.
Fish? Are you a fisher or?
No.
She's not a fisher.
There's just cool fish.
I've always wanted to visit the fjords in Norway.
Oh, that is so cool.
I just think they're really pretty, and so I'd like to go see them.
North Carolina.
We literally have met two people today that are from North Carolina. That's crazy. If you would say North Carolina for anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I used to live there, and I'm a big Greek fan, so
Oh, okay.
I want to go back.
That's actually really cool.
Probably like Japan or Greece.
Why do you want to go to Japan?
I just always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
It just seems really cool.
Peru.
Oh, Peru. That's cool. Why'd you go to Peru?
I've had a weird obsession with Machu Picchu since I was like 12, so I would
So
love
cool.
to go there and see it.
Yeah, I'd say Italy for sure.
Italy. That's a good one. I like Italy. Have you ever been there before?
No, I haven't.
No. What do you want to do in Italy?
Just eat the food there and explore. My ancestry's from there, and so I would love to go visit.
I want to go to Botswana in Africa.
Botswana, Africa.
Yes,
That's
that is
cool.
the goal. Yes.
What's drawing you there?
I just don't even know, just like the wildlife, the culture, I think is really interesting. So
Yeah, that's super cool.
Welcome to this episode of Take a Leap. Join us as we talk to young people who are using their faith to change the world.
So we're going to get into it, but beforehand, we have a really good icebreaker.
Okay.
If you could master any talent or any skill, what would it be? Like instantly.
Oh, if I could fly and have control over it, like zip around, and
Yes.
I think that'd be cool.
one.
I don't
That's
know.
really cool.
I've always wanted that as a superpower. I think that'd just be
Yes.
really fun.
That is so fun.
Like creative mode in Minecraft. I don't know if you're a gamer, but like,
No.
anyways, it's just that. I think
Okay.
mine would be like learning or mastering every language.
Oh.
I would love to do that.
I went with something really stupid, like I'm a superhero now. That's just practical. You
Yes,
know
I
how
want
many
something
people
practical.
you could talk to? I should cure cancer. I could have said anything, and here I am flying.
I said I would want to play the bass, so
That's cool. I've always wanted, drum.
yes, drum.
Anyway,
Be cool too. We could start a band. I'll play the bass. You can play the drums.
I'll think about a better one for the next
Yeah.
time.
That's a little eye-opening.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about it before, and she was like, play the bass. I'm like, really? Like, there's so many things you could do in life, but if you want to do that, then go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry I aired you out. Okay, sweet. So we're going to go ahead and start with you, if that's okay, India?
Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, guys. Welcome to Take a Leap podcast. I'm Neftali Rodriguez, and I'm here with...
Ocean Marshall.
And we have a very special guest today, India McCue.
Hi. That's me.
Thank you so much, India, for taking your time. We're so excited to get to know you more and hear what you do. And so India is a super cool thrifter. She's a world traveler. She's a super cool photographer. And for those listeners out there who want to listen to different podcasts, she's also a podcaster. So listen to her podcast if you guys get a chance.
Wow.
But a good question to start it off is, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into photography and travel?
Yeah, that intro is so cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so I fully work for myself. I run my own photography company, and primarily I do wedding photography. There's also a team of us. I call them associate photographers, so that if I'm getting multiple people interested in booking our photography services for the same day, I could send a team. And we also do wedding video. So we're kind of branching out. It's a lot of weddings, a lot of people in love, which I love doing. But it didn't start this way. I obviously started as a teenager. I was, I think, 16 years old when I shot my first wedding, which is kind of crazy. I don't even think I had attended a wedding before this. But I always wanted to do something creative. I used to, get in trouble for doodling in the middle of class. I would fill my notebooks with sketches, and I always had a creative streak. And I remember one of my camp counselors during summer camp was like graduated. She was older. She was cooler than me. And I was like, "Are you going to college?" She's like, "No, I'm actually gonna just do photography." And I was like, "That's an option? You could just do that?" So she kind of inspired me. So at an early age, I kind of saved up my babysitting money, bought a camera, took pictures of friends and just posted it on Facebook at the time, because Instagram was like not a thing or barely a thing. And it just kind of snowballed, and people found me from that, and I shot a wedding, and then you'd post it and get more interest and do the next one. But I did actually go to college for graphic design and advertising. So something still creative, but a little more marketable. At least in my perspective at the time, I was like, well, I think I could, work at a magazine or something and doing that. But photography kind of kept me going through the side, and that was kind of how I paid the bills to go to college. And I actually worked in the nonprofit sector through a ministry right after college. And then a couple years ago, took the leap to go full time. So definitely it's so fun to do your own thing and be your own boss. And I like that I've had experience on both sides of it, for working for someone, working for yourself. But it's definitely nothing I'll take for granted, because it's a lot of fun to be able to say, hey, I could go hang out with my friend in the middle of the week, or sleep in if I need to, or travel and not have to go through, different channels to get the time off of work. But then you also absorb the stress of making sure your bills are paid and all those good things, because no employer is doing that for you. You're your own boss now. So yeah, that's a little bit of how I got to where I am today.
That's super cool. And you've owned a couple of other businesses, like a clothing business and stuff like that. So how did you decide that you wanted to just focus on photography?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of throwing spaghetti on a wall and seeing what sticks kind of thing. And I think I'm definitely a multi-passionate creative. I have tried a lot of different things. And I always think my advice for anyone, whether you're creative or not, is to just keep trying stuff, because you never know if God's going to spark something in you just by trying it. It doesn't have to be a career. It doesn't have to be, something you devote a ton of time to. But if you just say, hey, I'd like to try clothing line, you can do that. If I like thrifting, I like making little videos on how to style clothes and look at stuff in the thrift store. I don't think I'll ever turn that into a huge profit thing, but I think some things can just be for fun. And others, I think, might be hey, this might be a business. This might be something I could do. So I tried a clothing line for a second, like you mentioned. I also am an actress. I've been in some movies.
Fun.
Which is fun, because I live in the Midwest, and I'm they don't make movies out here, but sometimes they do. And that's, again, something that it's hey, this is for fun. I don't think it's going to be a career, but man, I loved theater as a kid. So now I get to, audition. If they say no, they say no. And sometimes they say yes. And then you get to have that experience and, maybe learn something about yourself. But I think somewhere along the line, photography just became the thing that was never going away. It was people are always asking for it from me, which is a huge blessing. So the demand was there, and the joy of doing it was there. So I was okay, if you have a lot of interest and you love it, it's hard to say no. So I kind of fell into my lap that way.
I think it's so cool to have that balance of oh, I'm doing something I love, and it's also providing for my lifestyle and my needs. And so that's so cool that you're doing. Yeah, literally. Now that you figured out how to do your business, you figured out how to do your lifestyle and the balance between that. Now tell us about your faith background. How was that growing up, and how has that changed throughout time?
Yeah, I grew up in a very evangelical, conservative home. So faith, which isn't a bad thing at all, but faith was kind of the expectation rather than something I got to choose for myself or grow into myself. I would say at an earlier age, but growing up a little bit, I went to also a Christian conservative school. So you had mandated chapels and all these things. And I think for some, it would be easy to just kind of go with the flow, and you never have to think twice about your faith. But I think the Lord kind of revealed himself to me and encouraged me to make faith my own around 5th and 6th grade. And I think that was kind of a cool experience to go, hey, this is, something I'm around all the time. Everyone else is talking about God and Jesus, and it'd be easy for me to just go through the motions. But I want to be curious about the Bible myself. I want to be curious about faith and kind of ask more questions about it. And I think around 6th grade is the time that I kind of refer to as making that cognitive decision of being I want to follow Jesus. I want to follow God. And choosing that for myself was really important. And I think over the last couple years of, becoming an adult and going to college, those questions never leave. And if anything, it's been a beautiful thing to ask questions about faith and the world in the context of a relationship with God. And I think that's what I encourage people to do as well, is like, hey, like, you don't need to come to faith knowing everything already, because that's not really faith, right? Like coming in curiously and saying, hey, I actually don't know this, or I'm confused about this. Let me take that to the Lord in honesty and pray about something and say, hey, I confess this part of life is confusing, or this part of history I have a question mark next to. But I think that's how we develop our own faith, is by asking those questions, and being in a community that is encouraging of curiosity, I think, is really important as well. But yeah, I think God's just really cool. And even when I am like, Lord, life is confusing. What's going on? The world seems scary or whatever. I would rather ask those questions in a, faith context with people that I love who acknowledge God's existence as well, versus just kind of be out floating without any kind of framework to view life in.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Do you have a specific story where you felt God while working with your art or like your creative process?
That's a good question. I would say, honestly, like, as I've kind of branched into hosting workshops and teaching other people to become photographers, you'd be surprised, but like, people can be scammy and mean sometimes in the business world. And I think a lot of times it's easy to make unethical or less intentional decisions. One of the ways I can honor the Lord is choosing to do something different, choosing to love my neighbors here in this setting of business and high-end weddings and all this stuff, and choosing to like own up to my words. And if I market something, I want to back that up. I want to make sure that they walk away with all the tools that they need, and that they feel like they got the experience they were expecting. And I think as a Christian, like running a business, it's it's like something we really should strive to do, is to make it the best experience and be excellent in our craft. Because life is so much more than just transactional and more than money. And I never want to just be like, whatever, like, I'll shoot your wedding and I don't really care. I just want to go home. It's like, no, like, this is someone's once in a lifetime day. Like, I want to be there and honor them and make sure that they get everything they were expecting and then some. So I just feel like that's something I'm convicted on, is like making sure that we follow through as people of faith.
I think that's beautiful how you let your religion and your faith seep into your business. And that's something I feel like we should all be doing. But That's obviously a trial. It's an obstacle for a lot of people. I shot my first wedding this summer, and it was so cool. I told myself I wouldn't shoot weddings. Yeah. Because it was kind of like an ego death where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do weddings. I want to do like cool things, or like, so I was doing more street photography and portraits.
Which is cool.
It's cool. But then seeing and shooting my best friend's older brother's wedding was just so life-changing, because it definitely is spiritual. Mm-hmm. So do you see like the spiritual aspect in your work, in your photography? How does that work?
100%. Yeah, I grew up thinking worship and service were like things you do only in a church context. Like worship was music, raise your hands, like sing a little song. And service was like serving directly in a vocation of ministry, like serving at a homeless shelter, serving the kids in kids ministry. And I think around college, that perspective really changed the more that I kind of sat with scripture and noticed, like, even back in the beginning, like in Genesis, I see God giving Adam the directive of tending and keeping the earth. So work was given to him, and it was like, hey, here, you're going to work and you're going to take care of this creation. And so I think from a very early point on in scripture, just kind of noticing like, hey, work can be an act of service and a spiritual thing, to embrace that and to kind of say all of our work, whether it's directly vocationally in ministry or not, is worship to God. And it's a good thing to bless our neighbors with, making ethical decisions in our work, showing up for them, like finding the joy in the celebration, and especially weddings. Like, how much more of God's idea can you get than celebrating someone's wedding and a marriage, and to be there and know that like these loved ones are coming together to support them. And it's very rare for those people to have all those loved ones in one room. Yeah, I definitely see the beauty in that and the spirituality of that and the gravity of those moments on a wedding day specifically. But yeah, I just like to view any job can be worship, especially when you're walking with the Lord, and kind of submit it to him and say, hey, this is yours. Like, mold it, shape it, take it in the direction you want. I just want to show up and serve you, even in a creative field.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's so cool. Kind of switching over to travel a little bit. Since you've traveled so much, you've probably like experienced so much and like gained so much knowledge just from doing that.
Yeah.
So what has traveling taught you about God and people and beauty?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I see the face of God in all these people around the world. Like, I think travel, it can be framed as like a luxury, high-end, go on this bougie vacation. But genuinely, to me, I think travel is one of like the most humbling and beautiful things we can do as people of faith, because even if you are on vacation, you don't have to be a missionary to travel and see that, like, wow, look at all these other people who live on another side of the planet, a different life than I do. And guess what? Even if they don't know the Lord, like, God knows them, loves them, designs them. They're all made in his image. And I think that's so cool. And I'm like, if God cares about all these people, literally I was in Morocco this summer and I was like, God cares about all these people. And then he also cares about me and my little trauma. It's just kind of cool and humbling to be reminded of that. And I think it forces us to, make ourselves smaller, and in not a bad, like, oh, we're so worthless, but in a, wow, like, God, look at this vast world that you created, that we all share, that you say in scripture, you sent your son to like die for the world. So you care about these people. You love all these people. It like doubles down on the fact that not only do I need to do that same thing, but also that like it puts things in perspective, that my little problems sometimes, they're not that big, right? Like sometimes you're just like, oh, I really needed to kind of see someone else's point of view, experience their culture, understand what they're going through. And then it kind of makes you more grateful for what you have as well.
I think that's so true. I think it's so easy to explain, but like hard for people to get,
Yeah.
I backpacked Europe by myself last summer also, and it was just so eye-opening because I was going through a hard time and I'm like, I need to get out of this little bubble I've been in for so long. And so I got out of that. And then like you, seeing people of different religions, skin color, faith, different backgrounds, I'm like, wow, we're all part of the same world and God loves each and every single one of us.
Yes.
And so coming back home, I was just like, wow, I just wanted to love everyone and make everyone feel that love.
Yeah.
So what's something that you brought back and something that you want to like incorporate in your day-to-day life after having had those experiences?
Ooh. I think that mindset that you had just mentioned of really just trying to stay others focused, it's really, really easy in our little digital bubbles to get stuck scrolling on a phone in your own world, stuck watching the same Netflix show, whatever, and thinking very one-sided about me and my life and my dreams and my goals and how people perceive me and all these things. Even if we're not able to travel, I wish I could hop on a plane every month and just go and, learn someone else's culture and feel that all the time. But just being reminded of like, okay, Lord, like I'm one tiny person. I'm alive right now at the same time as other people. How can I do my best to like love and serve them, starting locally in your own zip code. And then, if you get to travel too globally or wherever you get to go, and just kind of being a light for Christ, like wherever you are.
So it seems like you're obviously doing a lot. You're doing photography, you're doing travel, your podcast as well. So how do you prioritize and how do you balance doing all this art, business, family, relationship stuff, and then your faith? How do you balance all that?
I think it's important to try to set boundaries and communicate them, but also be open to an adventure. And I think that's just something I've come to terms with. The way my husband and I are wired, our personalities, like, we like to have structure. I like to know the plan, but also I don't want to be so structured and so set in my ways that if someone calls me up and says, hey, could we go do this thing? Or are you down to go camping this weekend? That I'm like, no, I have to sleep, even though I might need to sleep. But I would say I try to do things like I take a Sabbath or at least a full day off every week. Because as you know, with doing weddings, those are usually on the weekends. So unless, I'm taking Monday or Tuesday, something like that off so that I can actually take a full reset. I try to see community a lot and make sure that I don't get stuck in my little bubble, get off screens, set good boundaries with being on social media and all that stuff. Especially with travel, I think it's hard to throw routine out the window when you go so much. So I try to do things just like praying as I go, wherever I go, being grateful. Even in a season where things are really good and successful, it can be easy to be like, oh yeah, well, this is all me. Like, I'm doing it. But it's like, no, like, don't forget, like, God gave you all this stuff. None of this is yours. Like, God gave you this opportunity. He helped you build a business. So just being reminded of those things as I go kind of keeps me in check. And then just, taking care of yourself and like trying new food that is good for your body and resting and just kind of getting outside as much as possible. I think all those things kind of help, keep me going and in some sort of boundary and some sort of flow. But to be honest, it changes with every season. And I think it's good to adjust kind of as it goes too.
Yeah, for sure. And with being a business owner, like sometimes life probably gets really like overwhelming. So how do you maintain joy and peace when life gets that way?
Sometimes, I will be honest, circumstances in life are like, holy heck, like, that's crazy. How am I going to stay happy when you hear some crazy headline that makes you really, fearful for the next season of life? And you have to show up on someone's wedding day after reading the news and you're like, I'm a little scared. But I would say that, like, honestly, joy comes from the Lord, and it's okay to not fake anything. I think being authentic and being as real as possible with yourself, with your loved ones, is a good thing because, especially with God, like, you don't want to, approach him in prayer being like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be grateful, but I'm really, like, I think it's okay to be like, Lord, I'm confused by this. Like, please bring me joy today. Please bring me peace in this situation. I need to represent you well today, and I don't want to, be filled with my own anxieties. But I think, yeah, just kind of being reminded of what God has given me and what the world has to offer that is good and beautiful, and just the acknowledgement of, like, in the end, good weighs against the bad, and there's more good out there than bad. So I think those things keep me going. Yeah. And I think my 4 cats give me a lot of joy. I love them. So every time I see them, I feel better.
Sweet. What are their names?
Appa from Avatar The Last
Avatar.
Airbender. Sokka.
Avatar.
Yep. Noom and Spoon.
Oh, sweet. Those are so cute.
If you saw them, I'll send a picture. If you saw them, you'd understand. You go, this makes sense.
Oh, that's so awesome. I definitely understand, it was so stressful doing that one wedding because I was like, there's so many things that went wrong. My SD card wasn't working. I forgot a battery at home. And so, like, I had to just keep these mantras in my brain. I'm like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. So when you're in those, maybe a moment of travel, maybe during a wedding, is there a certain quote or like a phrase, a Bible verse that just sticks home, like close to home to you?
Yes, 100%. I think it's John 16:33 that says, I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And that verse specifically, there was a season in college where I was like going through a project and getting a lot of pushback for it from kind of the other students and everything. And it had to do with my personal faith. And so I was like, not to, say there was like a big question my faith moment, but more so it was like, hey, how do I represent my faith well in a community where maybe those around me had a negative experience with the church or just flat out are rejecting it altogether? And I just remember like reading that verse over and over and just hearing like the words of Christ saying like, take heart, I have overcome the world. And I think that reminder, whether it's something big like that, where you're like, oh, it's like me and my faith versus you, which I don't really love that, like us versus them kind of thing. Or if it's something small, like, oh my gosh, my SD corrupts. I'm at someone's wedding day. Like, how do I get through this? Just being reminded of what's important and making sure the big things are the big things, which is that Christ is with us, that he loves us, and that ultimately that story of like the kingdom, the new kingdom, is what is most important. And in any job, right? If someone, works in finance and they lose $1 million, it's like, that sucks. That's really awful. But at the end of the day, like, what is the big picture? And a lot of these things that we put a lot of stress and anxiety towards, they're just really not going to matter in the end. And, you know, they deserve our attention for a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, God, like, you're still in control. That's never going to change. Please keep my eyes set on you so that if my SD corrupts and I have to give a refund to a client, that I have peace with it, because that would suck. But at the end of the day, Jesus is good. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said we just need to look at the bigger picture sometimes and like step back when we're in moments of stress or overwhelmingness. As we're wrapping up, what's one piece of advice that you would give to young adults who feel called to pursue something creative?
Do it. Try it. Even if it's scary, even if your family goes, what do you do? What are you doing? Are you throwing away your life? No, you're not. Just try it. I think there's reality of things like, you know, hey, bills have to get paid. Hey, is this a marketable job? Hey, is this an oversaturated space? But ultimately, especially if you feel like the Lord has prompted you to try something and put it on your heart, then he's going to provide. He's not going to lead you down a path for nothing. Even if the lesson that you have to learn is just to put yourself out there, you learn something about yourself along the way, you get an opportunity that leads to something else in a different field, you never know. So I would not want to sit back because of fear of what could happen or how you're going to be perceived. I'd rather just like take a stab at it and go, especially with God's peace. But I also think like when you view God as the creator of all things, if we say that God made heavens and the earth and all these things, then what better way to express yourself creatively than to partner with the one who created everything? And I think you can do that in any field, but I think it's extra beautiful as a creative working with a medium like podcasting, like photography, like paint, like, you know, movie making or acting, where you're physically making something new that wasn't there before. So I think that's a really beautiful thing, and it is maybe a rarer thing for the creatives that I think God is, you know, kind to partner with us in that way.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, take a leap and share it with your friends and family. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Take a Leap Pod. Take a Leap is a production of BYU Radio. I'm Ocean Marshall, and our production team includes James Sturdivant, Aaliyah Alexander, Heidi Hansen, and Neftali Rodriguez.